Helaena.
I'm seeing a lot of complaints about the last episode of House of the Dragon. And yeah, I get it. It was a filler episode that didn't live up to the glorious first 3 episodes. But you gotta think about it, it wasn't that bad. I mean, they're adapting a novel, and there are bound to be moments where the showrunners have to set things up to, go kaboom. And in that respect, it did a great job, raising some very intriguing questions about what's to come for Rhaenyra Targaryen. Among them was the surprise of Helena's pregnancy. It was a subtle reveal, but the shock in Alicent's eyes was enough to establish its importance. But why did Alicent react like that? And why was Helaena trying to hide it from her? Join me as we break down one of the most eyebrow-raising moments in the show.
I would rather have slain Aegon, as your mother and I had agreed.
Helaena has always been different from the other Targaryen children of Queen Alicent Hightower and King Viserys I Targaryen. She was soft and a happy girl until the Dance of the Dragons snatched a piece of herself, her son, from her. She was adored by the small folk and was a pleasant girl who was married off to his elder brother Aegon II Targaryen as a political strategy. We all know that Aegon was not the husband of the year material, and it was well known among everyone that the prince sought out his pleasures in the Street of Silk. In fact, one account by Grand Maester Munkin stated that when Alicent sent for Aegon II to join the Green Council, the King's Guard didn't find him in the bedchamber he shared with Helaena. Rather, he was found at his revels, and, according to Mushroom, Aegon was found drunk and naked with a girl. Even when Sir Criston Cole went to fetch him to convince him to sit the Iron Throne, it's often said that he found the king to be at flea bottom with a girl. Now, Helaena could not protest against what her husband was doing, for according to the royal traditions and Targaryen customs, they were wed to breed pure-blooded children, and that Aegon did. He fathered 3 children with Helaena. They got married in 122 AC when Helaena was 13 and barely a year after she gave birth to Prince Jaehaerys and Princess Jaehaera. The series portrayed that no matter what Aegon did to poor helpless common servants and girls and called harmless fun, he was serious about Prince Jaehaerys being his heir. In episode 1 of season 2, titled A Son for a Son, we saw Aegon coming to Helena's room and looking for Jaehaerys. He wanted to take him to the small council, saying he would be king one day, and he wanted to begin instructing him early on. Helaena and Aegon's distance could be noticed easily in this sequence, where she barely even looked at him while answering his questions, and neither did Aegon want anything to do with his sister wife, other than knowing the whereabouts of his heir. But Helaena did have the courage to tell him that Jaehaerys might not want to be king one day. But Aegon didn't even dignify that with an answer and starts to leave to fetch Jaehaerys from the library. Even when Helaena told him that he was afraid of rats, Aegon looked at her as if she was mad and told her ladies in waiting that the queen was in an enduring misery. Yet the poor girl got caught up in the middle with no intentions or benefit of her own when the civil war started between Aegon II Targaryen and House Green against Rhaenyra Targaryen and House Black. Helaena had no dreams of being the queen one day, nor did she want bloodshed, which can be assumed from the fact that she, along with Alicent, supported Grand Maester Orwell's idea of offering a peace treaty to Rhaenyra. That convinced Aegon, who reluctantly offered Rhaenyra a chance at a truce, which was denied by the Princess of Dragonstone. In fact, on the day of Aegon's coronation, Alicent placed the crown on Helena's head and called her my queen. She's always been used as a pawn in the larger political conspiracies and the battle for the throne, and Alicent realized her own ambitions through Helaena. Yet it was her who had to see the murder of her infant son in front of her own eyes, which drove her to severe depression and mental instability. Now, the series has pretty much shown us a similar trajectory for Helaena, but they painted her in a vulnerable light since the very beginning. But as far as her children are concerned, we've seen Prince Jaehaerys being killed by blood and cheese, and Helaena now being left with only her daughter, Princess Jaehaera. And we even saw Helaena playing with her little girl in the garden, unperturbed that her husband had fled and King's Landing has fallen. I don't think Helena's even properly registered that she and her mother were now the hostages of Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, and she was somewhat satisfied that Rhaenyra was not being unkind to them. Yeah, Helaena was that simple a girl. But what the show has conveniently not shown until now is the birth of Helaena and Aegon II Targaryen's last son, Prince Maelor. According to the book, Maelor was born in 127 AC, before Aegon II Targaryen was bedridden after the battle at Rook's Rest, in late 129 AC, having suffered severe burns. He was practically a vegetable, incapable of sitting up, let alone fathering a child. And when Rhaenyra captured King's Landing and took the Iron Throne, Larys helped King Aegon II Targaryen escape and entrusted Sir Rickard Thorne of the Kingsguard to bring the baby Maelor to Old Town safely. Unfortunately, while traveling incognito, Sir Rickard ended up in an inn, the Hog's Head, in the Black's-held town of Bitterbridge. He claimed that Maelor was his son, and after bribing the Ben Buttercakes with a silver stag and cleaning rooms, he allowed them to stay at the stables. However, a stable boy, Sly, found a dragon egg wrapped in Rickard's white cloak, and when he informed the others about this, Rickard fled from the inn with Maelor. However, he was killed by crossbowmen on the city's stone bridge, though he held baby Maelor in his arms until the very end. After that, the prince was seized and the mob ended up killing him. This was Maelor's fate, penned by Martin, and when the show is depicting Helaena to be pregnant now, the only possible answer is that she's carrying Maelor. However, if we follow the timeline of events as they took place on the pages, King's Landing fell to Rhaenyra Targaryen sometime in 130 AC, which means that they've already pushed Maelor's birth to after Aegon's severe burns and injuries, which put him to the bed. That obviously raises the question of how the hell did Helaena conceive a child this late? And that's probably why Alicent was shocked too, because it's been quite a couple of months into her pregnancy, and she started to show, at least enough for Alicent to notice. We didn't see any interactions between Helaena and Aegon II Targaryen after he was fatally wounded in the battle, and viewers only saw him being confined to the bed before one day he was gone with Larys. And this is where the theory wheel starts spinning. Fans are wondering whether Maelor would actually be Aemond's child in the show. See, Helaena and Aemond's dynamic had already caught our eyes in earlier seasons. Back when they were kids and it was already decided that Aegon II would marry his sister Helaena, he was not happy about it. Remember the episode with Laena Valerian's funeral? Aegon called a young Helaena an idiot who was playing with a spider while Aemond resisted and said that she was their future queen.
Keep our Valerian blood pure.
She's an idiot.
She's your future queen.
Aegon clearly disliked Helaena from the very beginning and even asked Aemond to marry her to free himself of the burden, to which he replied he would gladly perform that duty. You could see the affection for Helaena in young Aemond's eyes clearly, and in fact, he did not remove his eyes from her while talking to Aegon. Of course, we started wondering if Helaemond was a possibility, and got our hopes higher when we saw Aemond asking Helaena to ride her dragon Dreamfire in episode 8 of season 2. Initially, Aemond asked Helaena to get back to the sky on Dreamfire as a service to the crown, since Rhaenyra had raised new dragon riders. The initial conversation ended up in a heated fight, but later on in the episode, we see Aemond approaching Helaena on the balcony with a softer look in his eyes. He touched her arm gently and requested her to come with him to Harrenhal. Aemond's expression spoke louder than what he said. He wanted Helaena to be by his side, as his partner, and I swear to God, it did seem as if he had feelings for her. You could see his eyes well up as he shared his dreams of conquering the realm together with Helaena. He wanted her to be his queen, and even when Helaena told what his future would be like, how he would die, he didn't burst out in anger. Rather, we got a scene brimming with tension, and yes, to some extent, even the sexual vibe was palpable in this shot, at least from Aemond's side. That's exactly why the internet started buzzing with theories, and it got to the point where Faya Saban and Ewan Mitchell had to address fans' queries regarding the possibility of their relationship. And Saban said, "Maybe you will. To be honest, I'm already married to the other brother." I mean, it's not completely out of the question, is it? I like that people have such strong reaction to our relationship in the show, because there's not a lot going on. But Mitchell's answer gave us an even stronger hint when he said, "I have sensed some of the energy in these scenes." Sure, this theory seems spicy, and Aemond did appear to be the kinder of the two brothers, and Helaena could have found solace in him. And if the two found comfort in each other, however briefly, that honestly would have given the strongest personal victory for either character. But then again, I am going to say no. Helaena is indeed pregnant and the father is Aegon II Targaryen, despite the fact that we saw him bound to the bed for most of the last season. The thing is, HBO has been very clever to keep the timeline ambiguous in the show. They're keeping the chronology intentionally vague and have never clearly established how much time exactly has passed since Viserys' death. That's exactly why it's very difficult to pinpoint when the conception actually occurred. But after losing Jaehaerys, Aegon was likely to want another male heir, and it's possible Helaena got pregnant right before the battle at Rook's Rest, and her body started showing signs of motherhood now. The other reasons I'm going to go with Aegon II Targaryen being the father is because, one, the showrunner would not mess up Targaryen history and bloodlines this much just to give us Helaemond and raise questions about the legitimacy of Prince Maelor's birth, which is a documented fact in history. Two, would be a discussion between showrunner Ryan Condal and the author of Fire and Blood, George R.R. Martin. Everything was going smooth between these two parties until Ryan decided to bring in one of the biggest changes in the story. Condal wanted to remove Prince Maelor Targaryen from the second season, citing reasons like it would be difficult to work with another young child that might slow down production and increase the expenses. However, he assured Martin that Maelor would not be erased from the show, and initially the author accepted the proposal. The idea was Helaena would become pregnant towards the end of the second season and give birth in the third. But soon, Martin learned that the plan had changed and Maelor would not be born at all. In August 2024, he wrote on his Not a Blog live journal and stated that he needed to write about everything that's gone wrong with House of the Dragon. But I need to do that too, and I will. Then, in September of 2024, an angry Martin again took to his blog to express his thoughts about the House of the Dragon and the now deleted scene that was titled as Beware the Butterflies. Martin was basically signaling that removing Maelor altogether will have a terrible butterfly effect on the show and how it portrayed Targaryen history. Without Maelor, Helena's death and even Darren's motivation for revenge would be gone, or would be significantly altered. Thankfully, an archived version still exists, and we can see what Martin had to say about the show. To quote him, "There is no Maelor in House of the Dragon, only the twins." He then continued about the discussion they had previously, which I already mentioned before, finally saying, "I have no idea what Ryan has planned, if indeed he has anything planned. But given Maelor's absence from episode 2, the simplest way to proceed would be to just drop him entirely. Lose the bit where Alicent tries to send the kids to safety, drop Rickard Thorne, or send him with Willis Feld so Jaehaera has 2 guards. From what I know, that seems to be what Ryan is doing here. It's simplest, yes, and it may make sense in terms of budgets and shooting schedules, but simpler is not better. The Bitter Bridge scene has tension, suspense, action, bloodshed, and a bit of heroism, and a lot of tragedy. Rickard Thorne is a tertiary character at best. Most viewers, as opposed to readers, will never know he's gone since they never knew him at all. But I rather liked giving him his brief moment of heroism, a taste of courage and loyalty in the Kingsguard, regardless of whether they are black or green. In Ryan's outline for Season 3, Helaena still kills herself for no particular reason. There's no fresh horror, no triggering event to overwhelm the fragile young queen. What do we offer the fans instead once we've killed these butterflies? I have no idea. Condell addressed the point in an interview with Entertainment Weekly and said, "It was disappointing. I'll simply say I've been a fan of A Song of Ice and Fire for almost 25 years now, and working on the show has been truly one of the great privileges. I made every effort to include George in the adaptation process. I really did, over years and years. And we really enjoyed a mutually fruitful, I thought, really strong collaboration for a long time. But at some point as we got deeper down the road, he just became unwilling to acknowledge the practical issues at hand in a reasonable way. And I think as a showrunner, I have to keep my practical producer hat on and my creative writer, lover of the material hat on at the same time." Condell, however, has promised us that he has a plan in mind for Maelor Targaryen, and now it seems like he was indeed telling the truth. Helaena is pregnant, and all the clues indicate that Maelor will soon be born, which means Rhaenyra will now have to deal with another direct threat to the throne. That justifies why Alicent was startled, because on one hand, she knows the baby will be considered as the legal heir to the throne, and could put Rhaenyra's reign in trouble. But on the other hand, she also knows the dangers that now surround Helaena and her unborn child if Rhaenyra gets a sniff of the upcoming risk. Olivia Cook said during Inside the episode, "Discovering Helena's pregnancy means that this is a direct threat to Rhaenyra's heir. And if that's discovered, she'll either force Helaena to drink some moon tea or force her to bring the pregnancy to term, have the baby, and then kill it." As for Helaena trying to hide her pregnancy, it's a natural maternal instinct. She's already witnessed the loss of a child, and even if she doesn't care about the throne games or whatever her mother and half-sister are cooking, all she wants is to protect her baby. The only thing she can claim is hers and hers alone. With Aegon gone, Helaena might think she can raise the child as she wishes and doesn't care if the baby gets the crown or not. She just wants it to be safe. Moreover, if we go back to the same episode in Season 2, where she dropped the bombshell about Aemond dying, she also said that Aegon would be coming back and will be king again. Now, these are all true according to the book, and Helaena knew them beforehand courtesy of her dragon dreaming abilities in the show. Maybe that's all the more reason she's trying to conceal her pregnancy from everyone and waiting for Aegon to reclaim the throne, where she knows her baby can grow up properly. When Fia Saban was asked about Helena's sudden pregnancy reveal, she spoke too about that in the same video and said, "I think she doesn't tell Alicent because she feels so powerless in her own life. It's something that just belongs to her, and that's extremely sacred to her. She's not willing to sacrifice another child." But according to the main lore, Maelor cannot survive for long enough to rule. And if we tie in the budget issues that Condell mentioned, it's possible that they teased Maelor's conception, but will kill the character as an unborn child. A tragedy that would force Helaena to take her own life. Or maybe we would see the baby for some time before eventually Helaena loses him and takes the drastic step. Whichever way they choose, Maelor has to go to give an incentive for Helena's death. Alright guys, that's all for today. My heart breaks at the thought of the nasty fate that awaits Helaena and Maelor. And I'm sure it's going to hurt even more because we can already see how attached and protective she is of the child in her womb. But for what it's worth, Helaena trying to keep it a secret was a show of her quiet strength and resilience. Yeah, she's detached from everything that's happening around her. Still, the decision to safeguard her unborn baby was a beautiful depiction of whatever agency she has left in the Targaryen family. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so when there's more dragon content, it's coming your way first. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, and as always, stay marvelous.